Hello, I'm going to start what I've been intending to do for quite some time, which is a series of videos on how to do reader services. But I thought probably the first step in this would be to talk about creating your own service books, because even if you're not doing reader services, I've found that making your own service books makes the services go a lot more smoothly. And one of the things that you're going to want to do is to get a good ring binder. And having sold office supplies at one time, what I can tell you is you want to get a D-ring ring binder, and you can get them in different sizes, depends on what kind of a book that you want to put together. This right here happens to be what we use for the Sunday Octoikos. If you have the D-rings help because you're less likely to get the pages all wrinkled and bunched up, and also the fact that you have a lock on this means that you won't get gaps in the rings. When you get gaps in the rings, that means when you're flipping pages, you're going to get the pages caught and they're going to start tearing really fast. If you can find one that has double locks, those are even better. But I normally in Office Depot only see single locks these days. But having some kind of a thing like this also helps you from having the first pages getting all torn up, which tends to happen, unfortunately. But these texts are based on the Brother Isaac Lambertson translation, but what you'll notice that's different about them is that these are not just text, but they're also slashed so that they can be sung. And if you are singing a text by yourself, it's even hard to do it without slashes, in my opinion. But particularly when you're singing it together as a group, it's hard for people to guess where someone else is going to make a break. Whereas when you have it set up like this, the breaks are very clear, and also having the breaks at the end of the lines makes it a little easier for you to gauge where that ending is going to be as you're actually singing it. So I found this to be useful. These texts, I don't know if I actually have them posted on the website per se, but if anybody wants them, I can send them to you. The complete Octoikos you can get from St. John of Kronstadt Press, and I would recommend that you do that because there's going to be stuff that you're going to want to have on hand that you're not going to get just in the Sunday Octoikos section. But basically we have each tone has its own tab, so this is the stuff that's from Vespers and Matins that's going to be sung during a Sunday vigil. And then what we do, we also, in the back, we have all the different katavasia. So we've got the katavasia for the Theotokos for this coming Sunday. And I stick this page loose in there because it's at the end of every ode you sing the katavasias. This way this page just kind of keeps moving through the book as you need it. When you get to the end of the canon, you have the Ex Apostolaria. And so these are sung on Sundays after all that is done. And then you've got the Gospel Stikirin, which is usually the doxastikon, or the song or the hymn that's sung at the glory at the end of the praises. And so we've got the Matin Gospels. The rest of them are all stored under this tab. The rest of the katavasias are stored under this tab. And then I also have the Beatitude verses for just the Octoikos. Normally, we put together the variable portions for the liturgy, but sometimes you have a simple service where there are no extra verses for the Beatitudes, and so just to keep from printing paper needlessly, we keep those, and we'll use those instead of printing a fresh page every time. But for example, for this coming Sunday, these are the Beatitude verses that are going to be sung. We're doing the service for the Tikvin icon. And it's also going to be, and this is the Manaean text for the Tikvin icon. It has everything in here except for the canon, which we'll actually read that straight from the Manaean. And let's see what else we have here. This is the rubric sheets, which we won't be doing the Litia, so that's the reason why there's some lines through there. And so this has everything, all the Triparia that are going to be sung, except for the Triparia in the temple, which, because we sing that all the time, we have sheet music for that. And then we have the epistles, the Prokimena, and the Alleluia verses for the end of the epistles, and then the communion verse. So basically all the text parts are here. Now the choir arranges their books a little bit differently, but this is really for the reader to follow along during the service. So that's the Sunday Octoikos. This right here is actually what my altar service book. So for priests, you might be interested in this, but basically you can get a slujebnik and this, by the way, is a do-block ring binder made by Wilson Jones, made in the USA. I'm not sure if they still make these or not, but this is a really high-quality ring binder. And you can get the bound slujebniks that have all of this stuff, which of course I have, and those are handy to carry around in your pocket. But for doing the actual services in the altar, it's handy to have this on a stand. So I've got and I've just got very simple tabs in this one, but I've got the proskomedie here, the diptychs that we have for the living and the dead, and then of course we've got the beginning of the Divine Liturgy. That's St. John Chrysostom. We've got also the slujebnik for the Liturgy of St. Basil the Great. Let's see what else we have here. This is the Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom, but with the parts that I do when we do a Slavonic liturgy, and I just write out the parts that I'm going to do out loud so that I don't have to refer to a different book. But when I read the secret prayers, it's all in English because I don't read Slavonic that well. And then, of course, we got the pre-sanctified liturgy. We've also got the various appendices that you would find in the back of the pre-slujebnik. This ring binder is essentially the reader's Orologian homemade version that we keep at the reader's stand. We've got a divider for the beginning of it. One of the problems, as I mentioned, is the first pages tend to start falling out, particularly if people aren't being careful, and so this page is just about ready to fall out. So at some point I'm going to need to reprint this. But I've got the fixed text of the vigil here, and then the text of the first hour. I've also got the Sunday kathismas, the way that we do them, which was recommended by St. John, where we basically do one psalm for each stasis, and then we do three of those to make a kathisma, and only do one kathisma at matins. And then we have other things that are stuck in here. We've got the third hour, this is followed by the sixth hour, and then the text of the Divine Liturgy, the post-communion prayers, small compline, which we do when we do Bible studies. We also have Vespers when we do Vespers alone, and a few other services. We even have Typica in there for the occasion that it doesn't happen very often anymore, but if it happened to have a service or a liturgy where the priest unexpectedly can't be there, and like I said, it's not common that happens to us anymore now, but if it did happen, then we would have that Typica and do Typica instead of the liturgy. Another kind of handy service book that you can make it yourself are booklets, and this, for example, is a text of small compline. And I use a program that's put out by a company called Blue Squirrel, and the program's name is ClickBook. And it allows me to print a Word document or a PDF into a booklet, and then I have a long arm stapler, so I staple 3 staples in the back to make sure that they're not falling apart, and then fold it, and then I've got a pocket service book where I can follow along. So I use this when we do small compline in our parish. This is another text just as an example. This is Sunday evening Vespers at Pentecost, so it's the kneeling Vespers. And the nice thing about this is this matches exactly the text that's at the kleros for the readers and the choir, and that way we know that everybody's on the same page, because one of the problems that you do run into is that if you have people using different books that may be for the exact same service, like let's say Pascha, or some service during Holy Week, but a lot of times there are very minor differences, but those minor differences can throw a monkey wrench in your services. And so if you're doing reader services, what I would recommend is start off getting a good ring binder and get a do-block or a single lock, but use D-rings, and start putting in the basic services you want to start off with. And I would recommend starting off with maybe small compline, and Typica, maybe the third and the sixth hour, and then Typica. And the variable portions are posted on the website, but we'll talk more about that next time. Thank you.